is because it limits the platform to do what? Ka-ching, ka-ching, advertising. So when you approach large companies like BMW and you say, I can help you as a social network to reach out to hundreds of thousands, even millions of people, you've got to have backing for it. Which means you'll have to have users, amount of users that allow you to reach that number. In other words, if Facebook goes to BMW and they say, we'll help you to reach out to hundreds of millions of people, BMW will say, I think you can do that. Because you have 1.6 billion users, right? But if Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey goes to BMW and says, well, we can help you to reach several millions, and they'll be like, okay, well, let's see, right? Because you start to react based on the number of subscribers you have. Okay? And as I said to you last time, if you have a business, well, if you have a website, if you have a blog with thousands of readers every month, you almost have a business, right? Because you can go, imagine if you have a blog that is about education, learning, experience, right? And you have over 1,000 students every month reading your blog post, right? You can come to university and then you can ask university to pay to be advertised in their blog. And you can say, by the way, you will have very targeted users because my readers are young students aged 20 to 28, for instance. And there is no one that could say no to that because you can prove with the data analytics that you do have these specific groups of users who are signing up to read your stuff. So you've got something exciting to say. Right? And so you've got a really strong justification why the university should give you the money to advertise. So it's a similar situation with social networking channels. Right? YouTube is another powerful one. Right? They can go back to any brand and they say, if an image means 1,000 words, what does a video mean? And we have got hundreds of millions of people we can reach out with our content. And we can help you do that with your business. Right? You know, every year from the time Google bought YouTube, they have doubled revenue every single year. And lots of people in the beginning, when they bought it for, what was it? 7 billion or something, when they bought the YouTube at that time, everyone said, oh, that's a bad idea, you know, it's not going to work. But every single year, they doubled the revenue. Right? And that's it. It's not just about having the numbers, because to get the numbers, you need to do something right. Okay? So it can be features, it can be customer support, it can be all sorts of things. You need to get them right. But when you get those things right and increase the numbers of users constantly, like Facebook is doing, then you've got really powerful opportunity in your hands. Because every single brand in the world today wants to reach out as many people as possible. And therefore, there is no other way, at least not as of today, to be able to reach out to these people in a reasonably affordable budget. Remember, Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube, they're not cheap, right? But they're reasonable, okay? So you can run a pay-per-click advertising on Google, right? And you will only be paying when somebody clicks on your ad or views your ad and then does something around it. Which means that advertising is quite efficient, if you will. It's not there yet, bless you, but it's quite efficient. Whereas traditional advertising, unfortunately, you pay, but you don't really show how much you're getting in return. If you think of advertising in newspaper, right? It can be quite expensive. Or the big billboards outside. Or flyers, or anything like that. It's actually really hard to tell how many of those people who view those things actually decided to sign up for it. Brands are working around it by giving you codes and things, right? So then they can tell, where did you see that ad, right? So they can tell how much of that money that they invested in that particular channel they're getting in return. But in general, online and digital is quite efficient from that point of view. And that's why it matters. And the other big thing is because you've got these billions of users online engaging every single day, especially on Facebook, that as a brand you cannot afford not to be there. So nowadays, when you talk to brands about social, it's not a choice. You know, you just have to do it. Until some years ago, brands could just say, look, I can just forget about this and I'm fine. But now, that's not the case anymore. Because your existing customers as a business, they are engaging with others on specific channels on social media. And if you're not going to be there, at some point, someone is going to get their attention. Which means, is going to get their wallet. Well, at least some part of their wallet, yeah? Okay? So that's why it's essential that we do that. So what we want to do today, we want to try and understand a little bit about social networks. What are these things, right? Okay? So, we'll use several models, but the biggest question is this one. Is a social connection new? Is this social thing new? That's a question. No? What do you think?
It's recent.
Yeah, but like, forget about technology now. It's out there, right? Forget about it. Is social connection a new thing?
No, it's always...
Of course not, right?
It's always been.
So, social connection has been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. Since the first human beings were created in this world, right? And therefore, what happened? In order for people to survive, they had to socialize with others. Whether it was about hunting, finding food for your family, or protecting your family, you couldn't do it on your own. You had to do it with others. So that social connection is not new. Right? It's been around for as long as human beings have been around. Right? But the only difference now is that all of those things are being enabled by the use of this layer which we're calling technology social network. So this technology is helping us to reach out to those communities and to those members in a very quick, efficient way. So then we don't feel alone, right? It's almost impossible to find a Facebook user that has got no friends, right? It'd be quite hard to find someone that's got no friends. Because it's hard for us to survive on our own. We've got to be with someone, right? All our lives we're fighting to find a girlfriend, boyfriend, right? Get together, create a family, right? That's entire sort of mission of our lives, is to be connected, to be together, right? Because that's the only way of us really, surviving, if you will. Every time you're upset, what do? You phone your mom or your dad, right? Because you want to go in and cry over it. You want to just say, look, I'm facing these issues, what do I do? And it feels better because you're talking to someone, right? So that social thing, it's nothing new, right? But why it works? Well, the best way to understand this, we think, from our research, is actually to look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay? Well, Abraham Maslow's is really looked at this through a theory of human motivation. So he studied why and what motivates people, right? And also, why do people spend time and engage with the society, and why this is important? So he created what he called, well, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, based on the internet. It's probably one of the most popular models that explains the human need, the motivation for the humans to exist, right? And it starts with several layers, and it's got 5 layers. But the most important one, or what you see now on the right-hand side, is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and on the left-hand side, you see what we're doing today with social. So we're trying to combine and see whether we can sort of like bring in the social, this new social media thing, and comparing it with Maslow's motivation, right? So the first one is psychological food and water shelves. So like the first most important thing for the humans to survive, right? On the other hand, when it comes to social, it's about building your existence and creating your presence. So you've got nothing, you've got no presence on social media, start building up on it, right? Because you want to have a place where you can belong, right? So you're on Facebook, and that's your space because you've got your friends around you. And the only reason why you feel good about it is because you've got friends surrounding you. You share good news, you share bad news, you share sad stories, right? Because you know you belong to some community, some place, right? And then we move up to the next layer, where we find safety and security, according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And safety and security is around choosing the right crowd to join. So then you're safer. So then if someone comes after you, other friends will support you. Have you noticed sometimes if you've got a friend saying a bad or negative comment about you, other friends jump in and they say, no, that's not right, Tyra's a good guy. Okay? That's not true. In fact, sometimes users do that for brands. We jump in to support brands, right? If someone says bad things about iPhones, and we've been having iPhones all over, the last 5-6 years, we'll jump in to support Apple. How many times you've done that and you were not even aware of the fact that you were doing it? Right? So, in other words, we build up a structure so then we're safe and secure. Okay? Then move on to the third layer, which is around belonging and love. The idea of belonging to something and have a love sort of relationship in the environment. And that's when we start to build those communities. So once you've signed up for a social network or social media channel, you chose the crowd that you want to join in, then you're starting to build the community and connect. So you start to prepare your shelter, if you will. You start to prepare your own world. And as soon as you sign in into that Facebook page of yours, you're signing in into your own world that belongs to you, that it is designed around you, and you feel comfortable because you belong to something. How many times you joined in simply because you wanted to belong to that big thing, right? How many times people asked you to join Facebook early, right? You said, no, I don't need that thing, right? And then as soon as you've seen every single one of your friends joining in, you started to feel you were left alone, right? Nobody wants to be left alone. So what happens is that, I think I should join in. In fact, you start to see even older generations now doing exactly the same thing. Why? Because it's not just their families and sort of